This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Sean Preston.
Welcome to today's episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today we have a good neighbor on with us. It is the lovely Susan Brewin of Lark and the Lotus. What's going on over there? You look super comfortable.
I am actually. I'm just chilling, and I was looking forward to our session today. So thanks for having me.
Hey, no worries. Really happy to have you on the show. So I got the chance to ask you before we came on, just to get a little bit more of a glimpse from you. But for our listeners that are listening, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your business?
Well, in 2018, I officially launched Lark and the Lotus, which is a natural bath and body company. And then it morphed into some candles as well. But I've always been a DIYer, and I've always been very conscious about my health and wellness.
So just repeat that real quick. What did it morph into?
It just morphed into a real business. So I was doing a lot of the natural products on my own, and that's when I kind of officially launched it in 2018.
Perfect. You glitched out a little bit there, so I just wanted to make sure that the listeners knew had that transformation. So, okay. So what kind of like I'm curious, right? Like what came over you where you're like, okay, I'm going to decide to take that leap, because it is a big leap for everybody.
Yes.
When they decide to go and be their own business owner, and you're going to do it with the products that you just mentioned there. So what was that kind of, thought process that you had, and maybe your passion behind some of this stuff?
Sure. Well, this isn't my first business. I actually had my own business in 2003, and I ran a successful nanny agency for 10 years. Then I paused and, started doing some other things. Health and wellness has always been in the forefront for me. I'm an avid product label reader. I always read medical journals and that sort of thing. And I was making products for my house. I make my own cleaners. I make my own deodorant and that sort of thing. And what ended up happening is a friend asked me to make something for her dad that had pain. And I said, sure, yeah, I'll do that. And he loved it. And then somebody else asked for something else. So I'm kind of like the mad scientist concocting all these different tinctures. And my friend said, you should really sell these. Now, I had not thought of that. I did not consider I wanted to open up a business like that. Yeah. But I felt that these guys needed the products and they thought I could do well with it. So that's sort of how it happened, kind of by accident.
That's a pretty cool thing to happen by accident.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you're saying you're an avid label reader and stuff like that, to the average person, they go out to the grocery store, they're getting all their food and everything. They go and they get, soft soap, whatever the case is. So what was it that you started to find that was in these other products where you decided to start making them naturally?
So I used to be the same person. I used to buy all that stuff too. But my son had allergies and asthma, and I started being a little bit more careful about what we brought into the home. And, becoming a mother really changed my focus. It was more on their health and well-being. So once I started reading the labels, there were so many things I didn't understand what the chemical names were. And the most shocking thing is you would think baby products would be clean, but they are not. They are full of the same chemicals as an adult. So that's why I started, restricting those types of things. Those items are not allowed in the house. Okay.
And when you're playing the mad scientist with this stuff, like what goes into like making these kind of, and is it pretty time consuming, or like how does that process work?
It is, because I don't just like copy a recipe off the internet. I formulate my own product to make it unique. And so there's a lot of research. There's a lot of trial and error. I make a lot of prototypes that I let my family and friends try out. And then I tweak it until it's perfected. Once I feel like it's perfected, then I can put it out there.
When it comes to your candles, are you still able to like get like a good smelling candle? Because I know that like the other products that they're not good for you, those are sometimes the ones that actually make the candle smell
right.
You bought it in the first place.
I once did a little video about why these candles were so cheap. I was at Zehrs and it was like a $9 giant candle. But it's full of paraffin wax. Actually, some of those candles don't even list what's in it. So you don't know what kind of wax is in there. And then once that's in the air, people are breathing it and it's really unhealthy. So I always use a soy wax because soy wax is the cleanest burning. Beeswax is also a very good clean burning wax. And then, you're using essential oils for the scent. There are a lot of natural colors that, matcha powder, cocoa powder, those are all natural colors that won't harm anybody. So I try to be as natural as possible.
Nice. Well, we're going to have a conversation when we're done with this because girlfriend downstairs is going to probably want to get her hands on some of this stuff.
Okay.
And I think we're due to buy some new candles as well, too.
Okay,
so,
good.
there you go. You made a customer. Not even 7 minutes in. Very cool. Okay, so you briefly touched on it. I'd like you to elaborate. I'm always curious to know about the person's journey and how they got to where they are today. So maybe bring us back to the other business that you had before. What was your journey like to?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in Barrie for about 24 years. Okay. My background is airline industry. Okay. Coming to Barrie, I had a new baby. And so I kind of thought I would like to do something. I would like to work, but from home. So I wrote a business plan and was accepted into the self-employment assistance program. We call it the C program. I'm not sure if you remember this. I don't believe they are in business anymore, but they took me on and I started Family Care Connection Nanny Agency. And I ran that for about 10 years successfully and sold it when I was, I kind of grew out of it. And okay. I feel that if you're not loving what you do, you should maybe do something else if you can. And so I kind of took a pause and decided to take a break and, come up with different ideas. And that's when I started getting into health and wellness.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing. I talk a lot about it on the show, but being passionate about what you do goes a long way. Yeah, I call it the Sunday scaries. People get it if they're not overly. You could be still passionate about it, but when you're dumping in, you're putting in that work for yourself. It's a wonderful thing. So really happy to see that you took a step back. You got a chance to kind of revisit and see, what am I passionate about? What do I really like? And that health and wellness side, if people like you aren't going to check the labels and read it, not everybody's doing that. And it's education is knowledge is power. It's the biggest thing.
Exactly. And I'm really big in educating and not into lecturing so much, but just explaining a little bit more about why there aren't certain things in my home, why I'm going to return the Axe body spray that you gifted my child because I don't want him to use it, things like that. I just try to explain a little bit more about, the effects of that.
Oh, 100%. Are there any in your business, like myths or types of misconceptions that you hear from consumers about your product?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest misconception is natural products don't work because they're natural. And that isn't true. They absolutely do work. So my sister, she's a Zumba instructor and she's very fit and she works out and she sweats a lot. And I said, I would like you to try my deodorant and my body powder, try it out. And she used it and she said, oh my goodness, it totally works. I smelled really good when I was done. Now, if that's not, a good review, I don't know what is. So they do work. We don't need all the chemicals. What the chemicals do is it makes the product cheaper for the manufacturer and cheaper for the consumer because they're just putting fillers in and that sort of thing. And ultimately, they don't last as long because I don't put a lot of preservatives. That's why I make them in small batches. So I'm not going to make 1,000. I'm going to make on demand. So if you ordered from me, I'm going to make it fresh for you. And they have a shelf life of about 3 to 6 months.
Oh yeah, that's still pretty good for, I mean, my deodorant's not lasting 6 months. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. It's not bad.
And so on demand, so what kind of turnaround time if I, let's say I wanted a couple candles or something like that? What's the turnaround?
It depends. If I'm in the midst of a big wholesale order, it might be a week or so.
That's not too bad. I mean, generally speaking, yeah, if you can manage your manage your timelines on some of that. If you know your candle is going to be running out, you can place another order or do what I like to do. I have two.
And then I do have in stock, you know, my deodorant and a lot of my best sellers. So I will always have that in stock. But when you're looking at something custom, it will take me, depending on how busy I am.
Right, right. Very cool. All right. So when you're not out there, you know, being the mad scientist in the lab or reading labels and stuff like that in your personal life, what do you like to do for fun outside of work?
Well, I do like hiking. My husband and I love hiking and birding. And I go to Pilates. I try to be really social. I like hanging out with friends. We like to travel when we can. And when the weather's warm, I like to be outdoors all the time, gardening.
Oh, gardening. Very nice. So what's the plan for this year? Have you started to think about it? I turned into a green thumb in the pandemic. So I'm in that process right now, starting to strategize on what to pick, you know?
Nothing really new, mostly maintaining, but I like to grow a lot of different flowers because then I press and dry them for other projects that I work on.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a bad stint for the last 3 years. I lost all my tomatoes to blight.
Oh, I wonder why.
It was one year. This was 3 years ago. We had a windstorm, and my tomatoes were like 9 feet high. They were really high.
Yeah.
And they snapped at the top, and then the plants didn't last more than.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, they got taken, and then last year, they just see you later. Just decided to turn on me like that. And if you're not watching them, so they're, you know, I go out there and water, but you really got to be inspecting and you got to be pruning them really good to make sure that, you know, if the second you do get blight, if you're able to prune that off, you end up saving the plant. But if you let it get into the stem, it's going to go everywhere else. So I'm kind of an expert when it comes to losing my tomatoes. So I'm hoping this year that that's not the case. And
that's good. And in Barrie, you never know. The weather changes so quickly. So you got to hunker them down.
Yeah. Carrots are my favorite to grow. I like the sweeter carrots as well. I've got 2 garden boxes just dedicated to carrots.
Oh, that's awesome. I always pull them up too early. So.
They're so good, right?
Ones.
I got fortunate enough, like they're more hardy. So we went all the way to November when I had to grab the last batch. Yeah.
That's impressive. Well, the weather was good too.
Yeah, we had good weather, and it seems like we're going to get an early spring. So we're right around that time to start planning them out. I think I'm going to redesign my garden boxes. I've been looking on social media, and you can build the raised beds first, and then throwing in a layer of cardboard, and throwing in, a bunch of like sticks.
Okay.
Then getting into your topsoil or your mix, and then put in kind of like palm or coconut husk in the very
That's nice, and it smells like I've had it smells really nice. It looks great, good for draining. So yeah, that should work.
And that all slowly kind of decomposes over time. So when you're kind of remixing, and I have to get all new soil anyway, because when you have blight, you can't reuse the soil, right? So I'm looking forward to it. I have to tone it back a bit though, because it's taken me like over 45 minutes to water my gardens twice a day.
That's like a big job. That really is a big responsibility for sure.
Yeah. So still looking forward to it, but I think I might have to scale back on a couple because it's supposed to be therapeutic, not
work.
Crazy work. So, okay. So you like to have fun. Whereabouts do you go hiking?
We go to marshes where there's water, and we feed birds.
Cool.
So yeah, we just look at the Ontario trails, and we just sort of try different trails out.
Nice. Have you been in the Simcoe County trails at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are always fun ones. My parents used to have a house out there up in Oro, around the third line there, and we got a chance to. I would live there for about a year and a half. Got a chance to check out all those trails. I'm a big trail runner myself, so it's to get out there in the trails is such a nice. It's always busy too. You're not just running on something flat.
Yeah,
keep your mind busy.
Yeah,
always a good time
for sure.
Okay, so let's switch gears here a little bit. You know, in life, nothing's ever guaranteed, and sometimes you get played a hand that you didn't want, and it's not necessarily a straight road or a narrow road. Life kind of pulls and pushes us in all different directions. But what I really admire in people is the resiliency to be able to overcome and adapt to, maybe a deck of cards you were dealt that, led you down maybe a path you didn't want to go down.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see if maybe you could describe to us maybe a hardship or a life challenge that you've had to overcome, but maybe it made you better, maybe it made you stronger for it.
So personally, I've dealt with anxiety since I was a little kid. I don't really know why I have it, but it is something that I deal with. So I was anxious for this. So I usually am anxious that I'm going to be late, little things like that. So anxiety does play a role in my life. And I just try to do different things that are positive and healthy to get me to move through it, because, it's never really going to go away. Absolutely. Because life gets anxious. There was COVID. There's always going to be something. Yeah. So that's just something that I deal with. And I do talk very openly with people because, we all have something that we have a hurdle, right?
Totally. I was just talking about it on the show before you. I had somebody come on and openly, discuss something with me that they had severe depression. Like usually something happens and then you get depressed. This is just, wake up one day and all of a sudden you're in a crazy severe state of depression, and like not where it's only lasting for a couple of months. Like this is like a 6-month ordeal or a full year of trying to kind of crawl out of that. So that's pretty crazy. I never.
And it's an invisible thing too.
No, go ahead. Keep going.
Sorry. Oh, and it's an invisible illness. People can't see. So, you're posting on social media, you look great, everything looks wonderful, but really you might be suffering on the inside.
Yeah, totally. And people don't really know, right? That's why you never judge a book by its cover, because you never know what happened to that person the day before, a month prior to, a year ago. And maybe it just recently happened to them as well too. I had never really gone through anxiety very much until just recently in my life. But especially if I get overstimulated, I'll get really anxious where I have everybody come over to my house. And then if everybody leaves and I'm alone, I would pace around the house, and then I would need to be with somebody. So I'd have to call my parents up and say, hey, what are you guys doing? I just was with everybody for like 2 straight days. I had 8 or 10 people I was with, having fun, all this stuff. Now there's nobody. I'm like, can I come over for dinner?
Yeah. I totally relate to that for sure.
So what's one thing that you wish that people knew about your business?
I wish that they knew that I put a lot of my heart and soul into everything that I make. Some people think that I purchase the ready-made items and just put a label on it. There's a lot of me and my personality that goes into everything. While I'm making the products, I think, oh my God, I love making these, and these are going to make people happy. So I really feel like I put my positive energy into it. Yeah. So that's what I want people to know is every step of the way, it's I'm right in there with you.
Made with love.
It is.
Phenomenal stuff. Okay. And if anybody's ever interested, they want to be able to go maybe find some more information, check you out, what would be the best way that they could do that?
My website is the best place to go, larklotusnaturals.com. I have, all the items that I sell are there. There's tons of information. I do blog, and there's a lot of free recipes, a lot of free DIYs. So that would be the place to start.
Wonderful. And let's just touch on that before we let you go. But you also teach people how to make this stuff themselves.
Right. Yeah. So the book is kind of like a recipe book for products. And part of the book is information about the chemicals that are in common products and what they can do to your body. There's another section on aromatherapy and just learning how to use natural ways to scent things. And the rest of the book is recipes for babies, for men, for everybody, from body lotions to soaps and body butters, things like that.
Wow, really, really cool.
Yeah.
What a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Really happy to hear your story. And we're looking forward to chatting on the other side.
Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Midhurst. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpmidhurst.com. That's gnpmidhurst.com or call 705-413-3775.